Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel for today's video. I wanted to do today's video on narcissistic collapse. One of the subscribers, Adventures of Kate, I think it is, asked me to elaborate on what it would be like when the narcissist doesn't get supply and what happens. Do they get eaten up by demons? So let's jump in. When the narcissist runs out of narcissistic supply, they go into narcissistic collapse. But let's start with how this whole construct works so that you have a better idea of what is going on and how it's functioning. Because it doesn't really matter what the narcissist is doing typically. But if you can understand the functioning, then it'll help you to understand how they think or what's really going on when these things are happening. And you can be caught up in taking them back during this time. So you want to be careful, because this is where they will do anything to get narcissistic supply, and they will look genuine or look like they've really changed. So first, let's talk about their fuel. We always talk about fuel. Supply is fuel, and fuel is energy. And just like a car or some engine is going to need fuel, that is how the narcissist is. But see, they can't generate fuel, their own inside internal fuel, like we can. So regular humanity can just generate their own energy to sustain themselves. They don't need validation, and they don't have to be with somebody to survive. But the narcissist, they can't be that way. They can't live that way. That's why we always say they're the most codependent people on the face of the earth, because they can never be alone. But they put off the facade, what we call the fantasy. They're completely independent, and the man or the woman are like alphas. But really, they're not. They're like betas or simps, really, at the end of the day. Because they always go from relationship to relationship, and they have all these people in the background. They're either devaluing, love bombing, or befriending enough to where if they wanted to come by and pick them up and start a relationship with them, they could. And at the end of the day, when the narcissist needs energy or fuel or supply, they're not picky. And supply is admiration, adoration, it's fawning, it's fear. If they can put fear in you and scare you or make you anxious or dupe you, and all the responses that come with that, gives the narcissist supply. It validates the mask, the false self, because they don't have a true self. So everything is validation from out here, because they can't internally regulate. Partly because they can't feel anything on the empathetic side. And they don't have a true self. So they're kind of like wanderers. And because there's nothing in here, there's no hope, there's nothing really to live for internally. They don't have spirit man anymore, their innate spirit. They have a soul, their mind, will, and emotions, but they don't have really their innate self or their inside voice. So they are constantly drawing off others to get validation, to get this thing, this mask they have created, validated that they're doing a good job, meaning it's working. The acting and copying and energy and fuel stealing they've done to all their supplies, they're using now. As they've watched them, they tried to mimic them, got them to accept their projections as they project their false self onto them, all their negative sin and all their dysfunction through reactive abuse or you just accepting it. They grab your energy in the energetic field. Through your emotional field, they take your energy, your soul energy, and they go out and perform like you. That's why they're always staring at you. If you ever catch them, it could be in the home, it could be when you wake up, it could be anywhere out and about in public. You may catch them, especially if they're on the higher end of the spectrum. These guys will be staring at you with this cold stare, deadened stare. And a lot of people say they do it for intimidation. I don't think so. I think That's not them looking at you. That's something else in them and dwelt in them. It's not right. It's very eerie. And what they're doing is they're kind of x-raying you so they can mimic you later. And they can't read minds. Devils and demons can put things in your head, but they can't read minds. So they have to read your mannerisms and emotions and your responses to things. So they need a lot of fuel. If they don't get fuel, then they won't be validated that this thing is operating right. And it will lead to a narcissistic collapse. So fuel is everything. Fuel is everything because who they now are is this fantasy, this mask that they show everybody. And for different people, there's different versions of the mask. But they need your fuel to do it. They need somebody else's fuel. Anybody in their orbit, they are sucking off. Some more than others. The in-house primary supply is probably supplying 80%. That's typically how it works. If they're a good supplier, a true empath. Then you have other individuals they may cheat on, they may get a little there, or people at work that they're friends with, or they're flying monkeys, is what we call them, because they're the Wicked Witch. They all supply fuel for the narcissist. Fawning. So fawning is, it's over exaggeration. How in love bomb phase, how they kind of fawn you. They tell you all these great things, and you're like, this is too much, man. Well, that's what they need. They love fawning. You're the best, and I couldn't do it without you. The only way you'll ever get credit for anything if you tell them you could never do it without their help, and thank them and praise them. They want praise and worship. They want to be pampered. They don't have the ability to regulate in the emotional field. So that's why you're there. You're there to regulate their emotions and to validate the mask. And the mask is the false self, and the false self is their God. And that's the only thing they're loyal to. It's truly an entity itself. And the mask is always presented to a new target the way they think it should be, based on them data mining you and doing research. So they can present this thing and be the best first impression, because a first impression is a lasting one. And they want to tell you everything good and everything good about them. And they don't want you to hear anything negative about them during that period of time. And it's important that that happens because they don't want you to get the wrong idea of them early on. They want to get you tricked into trusting them and loving them. And once they get you hooked and steal your identity at least once through that cycle of the trauma bond, then typically they can keep coming back cycle after cycle, year after year, decade after decade, and you will be ruined, and you will have no self-esteem and self-worth, and you will isolate and wait on them, and your whole world will collapse. You won't want to do anything with independence, because these are things they always break down. They break all of these things down in your life slowly but surely. Insidious. And it's slow. It's slow working, but if you look at yourself in a 6-month period, like what you were doing 6 months ago when you met them, what are you doing today, or a year or 2 years? I mean, it is drastic change, and everybody sees it. But they don't know it's the narcissist. They think it's you, because the narcissist creates a smear campaign after they meet you. Already they're smearing you up. They're devaluing you to others, but saying it in a passive way, in a way that they love you. Like he has issues or she has issues, but I'm willing to stick it out and work it out with them. Those are ways people will believe when you hear it like that. They're not going all in. They're giving you a little bit of credit where they're not wrecking your name completely so people believe it. That way the stage is already set when they leave you, or they get you to reverse discard them. That's forced discard by all the stuff that they're doing, the crazy making. You will discard them, and then they look like the victim. And they walk away with your energy as they project all of their negative energy onto you, and you accept it because that's what you were trained to do in your family unit, family cult. And they garner supply, and that's why they have to have multiple forms and sources of supply, because they don't trust just one person. They don't trust anybody, but they always have to have backups. But they also are impulsive, and they can't do anything right. But when it comes to things wrong, they do them pretty good. So they're impulsive. They don't have object constants. Once they're out of your sight and you're in a relationship with them, long term even, they forget all about you until they come back home. So if they cheated on you, it doesn't even bother them. There's no remorse. There's no consciousness of it. Some of them feel some sort of shame, but it's tricky understanding their emotions. They want you to be their emotional regulator. So they have all this pent up anger and rage and hate and jealousy. And they actually come to you because they love your traits and they love your identity. They want to steal it from you. They also need a caregiver. Just like in the home, as a pampered golden child, their parents did everything for them. All they had to do was go out and screw. So when they find you, the same thing occurs. They want you to be their mother or father. And they want to be able to yell and rage on you. And you do their laundry, you raise the kids. They just use the kids for supply to triangulate them against you and other people. They want you to do the laundry, dust, vacuum, work double time, cook, clean. Well, all they do is, if they do work a job, they work a job. And outside of that, they just keep up with people, individuals. They have free reign, is what they end up getting, to do whatever they want. That's generally how it works over time. You are bound up and isolated. You can't question them, but they're lying, cheating, and doing all these things on you, and they do nothing as far as putting in work and around the house. And if they do, it's just to impress others, like a communal narcissist would. So they have all this supply. They build a wall around them of people that protect them from the world, so to speak. They believe the fantasy, they believe the false mask. Generally, the bad part of who they are is what we see as a primary source. Behind closed doors, that's where a lot of the energy is flipped. That's why 80% of it's in the home, because 80% of it has to be behind closed doors, because they have to rage and do all these things. If people saw out and about, they wouldn't like the narcissist. So they rage and do all these abusive things to you, flip energy in the home, and then they feel great because they just unloaded on you. You're the family trash can. As a spouse, same thing. But when they were children, they got pampered, golden child stuff, and or abused. Even with that, they were also told very negative things. They were worthless, or they're not good, or you can't do that. But so was the empath. So with the narcissist, they build a false mask to protect them of that, to fake it till they make it kind of thing. With your energy, they're able to take your fuel and clean up this mask and make it look shiny, so that when they go out and about, people will love them. They'll act like Mother Teresa when you're at home and you think they're Jason Voorhees or something. That's why they never believe you when you go out and about, and then they will get you ticked off out if you go out with friends and perform reactive abuse on you because you're tired of the way you've been treated at home. So they'll get you to react out and about, and then they'll be like, see, to their people. Or if you're with a narcissist long enough, you might get heavy addictions because you are all stressed out and not happy and depressed and anxious and all this stuff every day. But if, for instance, you wake up and you're 80% of their fuel and you were to leave them, that's why if you're that high value type empath that's unawoke and you do wake and truly become high value and you leave them permanently, you cut them off, and they're used to getting 80% of their fuel from you, well, there goes more than 3/4 of their fuel supply overnight. And that in itself can lead to a narcissist collapse. But they also have to get supply out and about. And when they don't get enough fuel, then they start to look like how they truly are, which is they're very unsuccessful. They're very cranky, grumpy. They don't put forth any effort to do anything. They have no energy, no fuel. They have no hope. They have no faith. They have no joy. And they need praise and worship to get it. So all they could do is out there and rage. And when they lose the primary source supply and they can't get them back, a lot of times they lose the whole fuel matrix around them. When they get you into their life and into their sanctum, into their orbit, in the middle of this orbit here, a web, you and them are in the middle if you're the center of the fuel matrix. And then they get you to focus just on them. Everything you do, it revolves around them. You got to pamper them, take care of them, do all the work for them, do their homework, do whatever. You work more shifts to supply money for them. You clean the house, you take care of the kids, and you pamper them, you adorn them, admire them, fawn them, and you have fear of them when they threaten you. You walk in anxiety, you have to overthink everything, you have to walk on eggshells, making sure you're thinking about them 20 times before you do it. This is all forms of supply. This all validates that they are the master and they are the God and all of that. But when you're not around, there's this wall, a thin wall, if you could picture a paper thin wall, and it's all pushing back all of the negativity that they've been told throughout childhood and their life, and who they truly are, which is nothing but a lie. And all the lies they tell out there, that's all back here. And they try to suppress it. But on the other side of this paper thin wall is the false self. And it's trying to hold all that back. But as they get older, it gets bigger. And now it's like this big and then this big. And so as they get older, they get more toxic. And it takes more fuel for them to push it back. And they get to a point to where when they lose all that fuel, that wall collapses in. All of a sudden, a river being held back by a dam, and the dam collapses because they don't have anybody admiring them, adorning them. They don't have the ability to get their emotions regulated by projecting. Nobody's accepting it. And people start to see them out and about for who they truly are. And they don't have your fuel to wear because you're not there. So then if they have a secondary supply in this web, they lose them because they're always angry. They're tired. They don't want to do anything. And they start to not shower and brush their teeth and missing work. And it gets worse. And then people are, all their flying monkeys, they're all falling by the wayside because you're not there fueling the whole thing. And because you're not there fueling the whole fuel matrix. And if they can't get several forms of supply to put them in order so that even if they can't supply them completely like you did, they can get several other people to supply them, that's fine. That's why they'll even say they'll go get street people if they have to sleep with them, anything. And the most fuel they get is off of intercourse. So that's why they like to come and do that first. They come in humble, have fake apologies, and they want to have intercourse with you. Because if they can do that, they can siphon everything off of you and project all their crap onto you, all during what you're supposed to be making love. So this is what happens. And what they typically do is a carousel. Their life is a carousel. It's not linear. It doesn't go anywhere. Their life is just a carousel. And you're in the fuel matrix with them. And when they break up with you, they're still siphoning off you like a primary supply because you're ruminating, you're calling them or answering calls. When they ask you to jump, you'll say how high, you'll do anything for them. You'll buy them flowers, while you're broke up, anything, write them long letters and notes, all of that supply. Triangulation. But if you stop all of that and they can't find anybody, then nobody's going to want to be with them, and they're going to start raging out at Starbucks and everywhere. Everybody's going to be like, they're like really, truly the Wicked Witch for who they really are. So they end up pretty much flipping out, man. The family gets it the most. So if they live with their family or if they have children, you'll hear plates being thrown and busting. They will be doing anything to project onto somebody or to gather or gain source supply. But it doesn't happen very often because of the amount of people they have in their web. It's kind of like a form of heavy reaping and sowing. Now that you're not there, you're not blocking them from them reaping what they have sown. And you're not reaping the negative harvest anymore because you're not fueling it. So you're not in covenant. Automatically, you start doing better and they start doing worse. Every day you do better and they do worse. If it were to be just you two in the fuel matrix, for instance. But that's not the case. There's always people out and about. And if they're good looking and they have a lot of charisma, charm, or allure, then they will seduce people. If they're good looking, they can get people all day long, really. But sometimes, there's times where the whole thing collapses and people see them for who they are. They can't garner any supply and they have no energy. Then they will somewhat collapse, hibernate. They won't want to get out of bed. They'll act almost like they have some kind of infection or something. They won't brush their teeth. They won't shower. They'll be hygienically poor. And that's usually a way you could tell they're going through a collapse. They can't even fake being happy. They're not wearing their iron clothes. And until they can build that pipeline back up, they will stay in a place of collapse. But will the demons eat them up? They do start to feed off of them. And that's why they become gray and ashen if they're going through a collapse. People will talk about this. They start to get their skin and their eyes get even more soulless. And they look like they're dead. They're literally, like their skin will look kind of gray. in pictures and stuff. I had one once before I was awaking, but it truly looks weird because it's like they're internally decomposing. And all of that stuff, that negativity has broke down the dam, and now they're hearing that they're worthless, useless, nobody, that they should just die. And sometimes they'll land themselves in a hospital, psych ward, or they may try to hurt themselves, but generally that's not the case. It's just a threat to garner supply. And that's when they come back to you and they will really look like they've changed. But the thing with a narcissist is they're fixed. So it's just depending on their fuel level. If you were to take them back, then they wouldn't reap their negative reward for all the people they crushed. Some people may not be here anymore for the things they've done to them. And so you should not have mercy on them. You should let them get what is theirs. Just let God do his work. A lot of times we get involved in trying to, we feel convinced the narcissist has changed, and we come in early and swoop them up out of their reaping what they're sowing, and then we wonder why they're not reaping what they're sowing. Well, I mean, if you're going to go in there and save their world every time, then they may never get it. You have to be convinced they're a liar, a cheater, pathologically. They hate you, they're sadistic, they're jealous of you, and they want to destroy you. And you got to let them do their thing. It's not that you wish anything upon anybody. You don't want to do that because that would be a form of feelings of revenge. But you just, everything with the narcissist when you leave them is indifference. That's it. Just, you don't matter to me. I'm doing my thing and I'm acting as if you're not in the world anymore. So please leave me alone. And that's how you have to be with the narcissist. You don't talk to them long because they're apt to convince you into getting back in some stupid relationship with them. But all they do is recycle. Their harem is just it's a recycling plant. And every once in a while they get somebody good or they get somebody new because they destroyed somebody all the way down to the ground. They may have leveled up and they're increasing their forms of supply. But that's how it works. That's why some people say that you're their negative reaping for all the stuff they've done to everybody else, because sometimes when a primary source that's heavily been feeding them supply and built their matrix up, made them look successful, because you've been with them for years and years, decides to not take them back anymore, the whole world collapses sometimes. And when it does, it takes them down to the ground. And sometimes they never come back. You know, they never get back up to where they were in their whole life. And then sometimes they get back up very quickly. They may be down for a few weeks or a month or something. But while they're out of fuel, they do start to have to look at themselves because there is no fantasy to believe in. And that's what they draw you into. They draw you into when they meet you, that they're this righteous person. They're amazing. They have been victimized their whole life and still they're standing. They'll tell you all these amazing stories, all these amazing degrees and accolades. And none of it's true. None of it's true. And then they'll future fake with you. But once a narcissist that's been humbled gets fueled up again, they get puffed right back up. And they're only with you for supply. Anybody. They use everybody as a tool in the shed. That's it. So if you can give me a like, subscription, and a thumbs up, I love y'all. Till next time, sold you up. Peace, we out.